All right, this is a continuation of our work with functions. So we just finished evaluating functions where we said we had a function that looked like this, x plus 3. And I said, let's make sure we always think about this, even if you don't mark it the same way. What is f and x equals 5? What is that going to look like? And we said, well, that's simple. Instead of, since I replaced this x with a 5, I'm going to replace this x with a 5 and add 3, and that's going to give me 8. So a function with an input of 5 is going to give me an output of 8. All right, so let's stick with this. All right, and now I'm going to introduce another function. All right, this one's called g. All right, so this is function g, and function g is going to be x squared plus 1. All right. In the same way that we put numbers inside of a function to evaluate it, we can put another equation or another function inside a function, and that's called composing, because we're composing a new function, right? All right, and so how does this work? Well, think about this, what we did before. All right, so I'm going to put my brackets right around here. All right, that is what our function g is equal to. All right, and so over here, I'm going to say, wherever there's an x, I want you to write g of x. So I want you to insert, if you want to think about it that way, substitute every place there's an x, I want this x plus 1, x squared plus 1. All right, and so maybe another way to think about it is, so g of x, again, if this helps you think about it. All right, so instead of a 5, we want to put this function in. So this function is x squared plus 1. All right, and so since we changed our x out, wherever there's an x, all right, we are going to put x squared plus 1. All right, and then we still had our plus 3 at the end there. All right, and that's called composing a function. All right, so this is right here. What we did is composing a function, a new function from our old functions, which were f and g. All right. The next step that you're going to want to do here is simplify, but we're going to skip simplify for right now, and we're going to look at another example of this. So I'll just say simplify later. Okay, we'll worry about simplifying it later. And so let's have let's make our function a little bit more complicated, not super complicated, but just a little bit more complicated. All right. So our new function is going to be, I'll put a line here. All right, this is our new function. All right, so our new function is going to be x squared plus 2x minus 5. All right, so that's our new function. I'm going to keep the same function over here of g of x, so it's still going to equal x squared plus 1. Now, let's think about visually how we want to look at this. All right, so everywhere there's an x, that's what our function is going to look like. All right, so we have 2 x's there. All right, and here is the function that we want to insert. It's just like putting a 5 in, or a 3, or a -2. Instead, now the way that this is called, it's called putting G, inserting G into X, right? And so we're going to think about that. Again, you don't have to write this stuff down, but in your mind, at least, you need to be thinking x squared plus 1, all right, is going to go in here. So where we had an x squared, now where we had an x, now we're going to have x squared plus 1. And can't forget that that was squared. And then plus 2. And again, we're going to put x squared plus 1 in the same way that we did on the last one, when we had a 5 or some number. All right. Okay. And right there. All right. So we have gone through the process of composing a new function. All right. And then our next step is going to be simplify. It's going to be simplify this function, but the process of simplifying it is an algebra skill that we have worked on before, and I don't want to confuse simplifying this with this idea of composing functions. So basically, you're going to take this function in this case, and you're going to insert it any place there was an x, the same way you did when there was a 5. All right, and so really that's all there is to composing functions. It's not crazy hard. It's a little more complicated than the numbers because anytime you come up with an answer and the number, and it's not an answer which is easy to understand, like 5. That's an easy number to understand. In this case, the number is instead of our answer is an equation. All right, and so anyway, that's what we're doing in terms of composing functions.